All right, folks, thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio, and it is time for the Private Eye Matrix Reveal with Monique Lassan, the woman in the red dress. It's all yours, Monique. Take it away.
So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Matrix of Perception on Revolution Radio at freedomslives.com. I am Monique Lassan, your private eye host for tonight. Revolution Radio is the only 100% listener-supported radio, so please go to our website, www.freedomslives.com, and click Donate. And of course, as always, my own website is www.iinvestigate.com. Our dedicated dial to listen numbers available 24/7 for Studio A is 712-432-6958. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of background about SKYE. She's going to be talking about archons, mind control, and a mom, which is her book. She's a light worker. She's also a contactee and experiencer of a special kind taken from one timeline to another by what she considers to be extraterrestrial nurses working for our supreme creator in charge of the overall picture. SKYE is an author, a spokesperson, and a researcher. Her true life experiences have her in touch with the profound energies that are educating humanity on what we will be experiencing in the new paradigm as we usher it in. She educates us through her writing in her most known book, Archons, Mind Control, and a Mom, A Path to Enlightenment. SKYE herself is a Chinese medical practitioner with her own healing arts practice, growing up in a political family and being in entertainment business most of her life, rushes forward, diligently bringing awareness to members of the entertainment industry, the judicial system, and the medical system about the reality of the darker agenda and what we as humans, God-mans, can do about it. Let's welcome SKYE to our show. Hello, SKYE. Welcome.
What a great introduction. Thank you so much, Monique, and
That's not a
your
problem.
fantastic people here that I'm saying hi to. It's just such an honor to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I've been wanting to get you on my show for several months now. I've read your book several times, and I know we sometimes have technical difficulties, but you know what? As long as we get you on with the perfect, as best as we can actually sound, and you sound awesome. So thank you for being patient.
Oh, great. Yeah, sorry. I said, what are we doing? I wasn't sure, but yes. Good. We got the technical stuff out of the way, and I'm so happy to be here and focused on this very important topic. And I just appreciate you, Monique, for having the radio show and letting people like me come forward and tell our story, because it's a very real, serious thing. And I'm very grateful to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know what? I didn't have your website, so let's go ahead and tell everybody what your website is and how can people purchase your book.
Yes, thank you. So if you'd like to get a hold of me and see all the work that I do and the videos that I do, you can find my station on the YouTube station under Enlightened Beings. Enlightened Beings. It's 2 words. It just merges one. And then you can also, that's how you're going to reach me. And then my book, you can order on Amazon, and you can order that by typing in Archons, Mind Control, and a Mom, A Path to Enlightenment.
Okay, great. You know what? I'd like to talk a little bit about you. You say that you're a light worker from another planet and that you talk to ETs and angels. Were you always like that, or was there a time that you became a light worker, and what were the circumstances of that?
Yeah, okay, so that's a real deep, entailed question, and it's both on one end or the other. When I was a child, and let me go back. When I was adult, I had my memory restored to me about when I was a child, and that I would And just to recap, my memory was restored to me after the incident about what happened to my daughter, which we're going to get into. But what happened was I was on when I was a child, I was gravitated to this one area often. And it was a repeated thing. And there were other children that would come to this area. And we were, through time, taken. There were certain children that were chosen. We were taken up on what I call these parachute kind of things, these ship sort of parachute things, and I call them transporters. And we would meet often at night, and we would meet with what I would call alien nurses. And us children understood them to be alien nurses because, first of all, I loved it when they came. We knew them to be alien nurses because they played with us and they brought other children, and they were so fun and so loving. And we knew they were nurses because they were caretakers. But they weren't caretakers like just of people. They were universal caretakers of all things. And they were in people form. But they were in alien form. And they were nurses because that's how they talked to us as children. We understood that they were nurses. They were the healers. They were the people that took care of us. They were the healers of the planet in extraterrestrial form. And we all knew that we were participating in something very big. I remember vividly the way that it worked is you're taken up. I don't know what they call them now because I was never introduced to this. This is just my experience. The transporters I'm going to call parachutes because when we were kids, they looked at it like parachutes. And we go into these parachutes to go to the bigger ships. And the nurses would take us up with the other children, and we understood our mission. We understood what was going on because I remember in this one particular time that they took us up, and when they take you back down, you agree that you're going to have your memory erased. Like you're aware of the ascending and descending, but you're not aware of anything else. You agree that you're going to have your memory erased, except for portions of it. And then there's one particular time that we went. We were specifically on a mission to be taken off of another timeline, us and these other children, and placed into this timeline now to where you and I and the planet as we know it exists here. And that was my and that memory of this. Now this I remember because it was just so vivid. I could go into detail of what happened, but the memory of this returned to me during the time that when I was adult and I had met the light beings, and the light beings, which I believe were part of the same natural source of God source energy, they appeared to me, and my Akashic memory was restored to me after the devastation of what happened to my daughter. It was the most spiritual experience possibly that could ever happen, and that's what brought me back to my childhood. So it's a childhood adult story, and then in between I was a normal person.
Normal person, right? So how old were you as a child, that this memory that you remember? How old were you
when we were taken?
Yes.
I think it was between ages 5 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was older, here's the thing, when I was like a few years after that, because they do erase your memory, I remember one girl that I ran into, and she came up to me. It was like a couple years later, out of the blue, she said, "Do you remember the alien nurses? They came and they took us here." And I thought that it was just the most interesting thing. And it's like, I have a vague memory of her doing this, but I remembered that she remembered, and it was just a strange, like, deja vu thing.
Right.
That stood in my mind, yes.
Yeah, it's not the first time I hear that, actually. It's something that it happens. It's as unbelievable as it sounds, but it is true. I know I know for a fact. I have some experiences with that. But let me ask you, these light beings communicate with you. How are they communicating with you at this time?
That's such a great question. Okay, this is important because it is not just me. This is happening to an abundance of people. And they came to me when they started to come to me, and I had left. They come to me. Let me just tell you how they came to me first. I was in an terrible anxiety. I was leaving my body. I was becoming almost like a death of my soul. And I laid on the ground for about 3 days in just horrible pain and craziness. And it's almost like I could not really reach my soul at all. It was completely as if it was on the other side of eternity. And it was just this faded nothingness. And I was, the next thing I know, I came back in my body with just this heightened state of bliss and energy and form and essence. And my Akashic brain literally started, it was like this computer started to button press, and it just started to open up, and my being changed. My chemicals in my body, as if my higher soul walked in, and I suddenly had this information that was unlocked to me. And what I knew what was real, because this golden light appeared, I was in tears, filled with major peace. I knew nothing but peace and the love of what people call the Holy Spirit or Mother, Father, God, this essence of just golden peace, so golden it lit up my eyes when they were shut. And then what happened was I felt like there was going to be form that came, like a person or something in form, and it just became so much. And there was an agreement made between me and this energy that they would tap me on the nose. And I made the agreement. Downloads were put
say that
into
again. I'm sorry, Sky. You made the agreement, and say that again. I missed that.
When I started to get these downloads and all this information, it was as if there were beings going to walk into the room, like literally entity beings. And I asked them to please stop. And I said that this is too much for me. I'm going through too much with my daughter. I can't handle any more nerve stuff on my body. This is just too much for my whole system. Yeah. And so there was an agreement made that they would lightly flutter my nose, because I'm very kinetic and I can understand kinetic energy. I could understand that, we were elementals, and I could understand the ethereal, and the ethereal, the kinetic. I could understand that energy, and I could listen to it and understand it like I could read a language or hear a voice. And so that was my agreement that they would use the element of the kinetic, the ethereal, and I'm touched. They touch my nose when I have downloads. So therefore, I know that I'm speaking with profound beings. It's not just some airwave download that's genetic or synthetic. It's literally from the heart, from the higher dimension, from the golden light, from source. And it was all conversational. And so since that profound meeting, we have had the agreement was that they would I would sense their energy, and that I would get tapped on my nose, and that I would get the information sent to me, and that would be my form of communication. I knew what it was.
Are there other contactees such as yourself on Earth, and are you communicating with them?
I love that, because there's an entire fleet of people, and now this is going to get intense here, because I'm going to even go into government. There are some people that work for our military that are light beings. That there are some people that are extraterrestrial contactees that are working for a higher mission on this planet. We are and they're scattered, thousands of us all around the planet, and they do involve some of our government and governments around the world from my radar, and that's what I'm talking about. We are on a specific telepathic radar, and that it's an ignited. Okay, us contactees. Some of us are on the embassy. This kind of gets entailed. It's like it's this really entailed contacting information. But there's some of us that we are contacting, we're told that we're on the embassy, and there's different dimensions of that. And there's some of us that are just contacted because there's going to be some changes on the planet, and we're just preparing the planet and people and places. Or some of us are just contacted because they're actually trying to get us, they have and they do get us information on how to heal some of the things that we are dealing with that are so sad, some of the diseases and such. So we're also getting contact through portholes. So right now, the planet and us contactees are getting contacted everywhere in every way, depending on how much you have been awakened to it. Now, each person is getting awakened on different levels. So it just depends on your level of, how open your house is, like your inner house, your spirit, and how clean that is. And if you're really busy in your everyday life, the chances you're not going to hear the contact as much as somebody would if they just sat in meditation.
Sure. And you're talking about some of these energies that are positive energies and contactees among the government, but you also talk about the dark power that we could never imagine working with our own very government and using us as means of mind control. What would you say about that?
Wow. This is a true thing. As you know, I witnessed that firsthand with my daughter through the MK Ultra and the mind control. And I have witnessed this, and separate from witnessing it, I know this to be true because I know that the information that I'm getting because I'm a contactee, we understand there's technology that darker races have on our planet, not just in the United States, but all around different areas in the United States, or around different the country or the world, that has technology that we would describe as black medi technology, black originally black magic, and medi medical technology that certain, as I said, certain governments do have through alien races, depending on what government is working with what alien race, this technology and how it will be supplied to what government. And we believe it originally was come through, in World War II. I'm not saying but during World War II, after World War II, when Hitler worked with a certain section of extraterrestrial races, this technology at that time, we believe, was provided at that time. Mm-hmm. So it's been here for a while from the information that I understand.
Right. Well, this book is really about not just archons and mind control, but about a mom dealing with a daughter. So let's talk about your daughter. What name was she born under, if you want to discuss that? But since you kind of talked about it in the book, I figured that that's okay to say it. And what was she like before the change, and what changes took place with her?
You mean what her name, my daughter Laura, and then her name after she got taken, how she switched? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And tell me about how was she before all these changes took place, and what changes took place and where is she now, and how is she doing now?
Okay. So before the change, we were out here in Los Angeles, and we were in the entertainment business. Beautiful girl, very stunning, very astute, sharp personality, long red hair. She was a model and a dancer, and she was dancing she was starting to do some recording of her own, and she was doing some great dancing in one of the major dance studios here in Los Angeles that was working with a lot of celebrities. And celebrities, well-known people, and she was. It was just kind of becoming more and more group oriented, and then there was a group of people that would go to rave. The more she got, she was getting older, she was getting modeling, getting beautiful, well noticed, and then she would go to these electronic raves because she was a dancer. That's all they did was dance. So she went to the raves, and at the rave scene, you're very susceptible to the drug scene, and her energy was also susceptible to that. Her life path was to experience that. So she had being in being young and being a dancer and then moving your energy to electronic scene, she was just more susceptible to the drug scene. And within
the drug of her choice was crystal meth, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it was. But at the rave scene, that was more of an ecstasy thing. Yes, she did do that. The drugs, but crystal meth was definitely the devil's drug that took over her body, I believe. Right. But there's also ecstasy, and there probably could have been a combination. But I don't know her to be having ecstasy. But meth is really more the drug. Whatever drug it was, it lowered her. The drug, the energy around the room, all of it, the electronic waves that were flying through the room, she went into such a state that it lowered the energy around her body to completely her chakra system to be completely taken over by the darker energies that entered when a portal was open, and these energies had gotten through her, her universal chakra into her body system. And that's what we would call the archonic energy that latches on. And we find this to be true, not just because of her energy field, but literally in the drug itself now. So it's very important you say meth, because meth is considered right now the devil's drug that the elites use to open one's portholes to latch onto your own electromagnetic energy field, and it's intentional. So it's not just that these kids that are out taking drugs, people that are taking drugs, it does lower your energy, definitely, but it's also within the chemical itself. And this also we found to be true. And I love Eve Morgan. She's one of my favorite researchers because she was most of what I was experiencing with Clara. She was literally putting down in technical terms, and that was also one of the terms one of the things that she had found in her investigation that the elites were doing, and it pretty much worked out with everything that I had been experiencing as well. So,
well, SKYE, your daughter's name was Lara. Later, she referred to herself as Taylor. Was she diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder?
Now, see, this is a great question. This is the thing, because for so long, for 3 years into this, I thought of course, I don't know anything, until and for a while until I met the light things. I just think that this is mental illness. Now, there is a point where this DID, identity disorder, associated disorder.
Dissociative, identity disorder.
Yes. That became prevalent. The Taylor became super prevalent after she became taken over by the state. And this entity, Taylor, this is the hardship, the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. There is another entity that is literally inside of her that is an archonic entity that is alien controlled or mind controlled by this technology that I'm talking about. And she labels herself as Taylor. And Taylor has entered pretty much okay, so it's very interesting. She lowered her energies around her body with the archonic energy prior to her, years prior to her takeover from the state. But once she was taken over by the state and they had access to everything, her medicine, her mind, her body, that's when, right about that time frame was when Taylor came in. But she was starting to have some disassociation prior to that. But the full-on identity taken over became after she came into UCLA, and that's when I believe she had been experimented on.
Mm-hmm. So, Skye, I guess this is a perfect time to ask you, what are archons? And this is a huge question, I know. I mean, this is very interesting. I think more and more, since I've talked to you, people talk about the archons. So let's define that for our listeners.
Yeah, okay. So the archons are, so we're going to start with amoeba-like thought forms, just thought energetic forms. Everything is energy. You and I are energy. Every thought has energy. Everything has energy. The system, the table, the computer. Our energy around our body is one of the most powerful energies that there are. Especially heart energy is probably the most powerful energy there is. So, and then there's also good and bad energy. And we can project out something negative. So just say we project something out negative, and that negative energy of its own self takes on form. And that can go out depending on its own life form, depending on a whole bunch of things. But this is where it would originate. Now, this would be hooked onto where this goes into the ethereal dimensions where our government has control. And I just have to skip back to some biblical history. If you were to think of the Big Bang, and at that time frame when we were projected into this universe, there was also a negative force, the yin and the yang, and the negative force came with this. Not so much the yin and yang, but this negative force came with this. If you were to study the Gnostic religion, or if you even want to refer to, like, if you want to do the story part of it and get into Luciferian stuff. So this negative black goo life form is just here that exists. And depending on your energy field, because we've all agreed to be on this evolutionary timeline planet that we are on, if depending on the energy around your body, you're susceptible or not susceptible to this, depending on what how much clearing you do or whatever. But also these negative forms, everything has negative energy, and this energy can accumulate into its own form, and it literally presents itself into a being. And this being can be controlled synthetically through technology that our government has. And they also create these things, but they create these negative archons. They're synthetic archons that our government has access to create. But it all originates from us and what we send out and how we're doing it. But by the time, from people, I want to say. And then there's this energy, this archonic, this amoeba form energy, these thought forms, they can be interlaced, and then thrown back to you. Almost that would be more into the kind of more MK version of this. But the archon itself, you would consider to be a negative energy, and it could be so much that it's a negative energy form that you can't control it. It's like an addiction. But there's so much archonic energy that can be so bad it goes into an entity form.
So how do they enter our being? Are they entering us because, if you're low energy, depressed, or use drugs, for example, automatically you become a target. And also your chakras become out of balance. Is it when archons can attack?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is exactly right.
Well, how do we protect ourselves?
All the time.
So how do we protect ourselves against these archons? And are they interdimensional beings? And have they always existed like jinns?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Just because I read your book, that's why.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. They're interdimensional beings, and depending on what dimension they're in, and what government or what person or what thing has control of that, they'll reach that dimension on that form. And they enter in through your chakra system. Remember, we are electromagnetic energy field systems, and each chakra system will project a different meaning. So say we go into the root chakra below the navel, near the perineum. So we're just going to deal with anything of the physical form. So that would be like your connection to your physical world. So if you had an archon attack on your lowest chakra, you probably have like consistent illness in your life, or you would have like bodily things would be in danger your whole life. Anything could be affected. Your hearing, your sight, your bodily things, a disease. If you're going a little bit higher and you go up to, so that would be archonic. You go a little bit higher, you go up to your below the navel, right below the navel, the sexual chakra, and you're dealing with all kinds of things of the life force chi. And once you get an archonic attack on that, the person, they can become a rapist or a voyeurism, or they can have kind of weird sexual things they can't control, or that would be it can turn into the entity, those Nephilim entities that you hear, those entities that you hear about, they attack. I don't know, this is getting into some dark occult stuff, but if you're dealing with that lower chakra, then you're dealing with archons, then you're dealing with it. Sexual attacks in the ethereal field, where they literally can rape you, and through the ethereal. So they would use that chakra system. So you would want to make sure that these chakra systems in your own body are protected. And then you're going to go up to your emotional, your stomach. And I go over every single chakra in the book and how to protect yourself. So I'm just giving you a couple of examples here, just so, because this is a really entailed thing. People think, oh, I just have, heartache or whatever. I have heart attacks. I have, rashes, or I have hives, or I have ulcers, or whatever. I don't know, anything chronic. Anything chronic. This is stuff that can be healed, because this is more stuff that if you're really dealing with more of the stuff that is in thought form, an attachment thing. But it just depends on how deep it is in your body. More, and how, it's either physical or ethereal, but for the sake of the book, it's more of ethereal. I'm talking more ethereal. And then to protect yourself, you have to do these human things of really taking care of the body and your spirit and your soul. We are three-part beings: mind, body, spirit, and every single one of those has to be paid attention to. You cannot just go to work and neglect your body and think that you're going to be successful at work, because that archon will travel up every single one of your bodies. You can't go to work and not be peaceful and think that you're going to make money. It just, and somewhere along your life, somewhere in your life, you're not going to have discord without this alignment. But that's all of us. We're eternally trying to align our chakras and what each thing is what we're meant to work with. So protecting yourself, prayer, meditation, clearing out, because these archonic attacks come from really negative energy in your body. Every day we go to bed and we don't clear out the stuff from the night before. So that accumulates, and that, depending on the chakra system that is invaded, that body center will be either invaded or it'll go into your body in some kind of a form, and that's where the control happens. And it's all our thoughts are radars. Let me tell you, and there's technology that we don't think a thing alone. We think that we're alone, not with aliens and not with our government technology. Most of our thoughts or radars out there. I know this because that's right, because there's a lot of us light beings that are doing the good work on our contactees. But there's a lot of invasion in the ethereal, and they are invading our thought systems. They can, because around our, same topic, but it's very important to protect your chakras, even around your crown, your thought forms chakras, your waveforms. They can be picked up, manipulated, and, brought back to us.
Okay, so let me go ahead and bring Don in. I think that he has one question. Go ahead, Don. Start with one.
Well, Sky, maybe I missed it, but I'd love to hear if you can tell us a little more about your daughter. How did you find out what happened with her, and why do you feel she was targeted, especially if you were working with light beings already, and why she was susceptible? And what can we do to look out for our own children? Of course, you talked a little bit about looking for ourselves. Where's your daughter now? Have you freed her from all this?
Yeah, that's good. Okay, good. Yeah, because so she was susceptible. First, because getting back to that, because she was in the scene, and then she was in the hospital, and then she was also because the system is one of the worst things ever, and she was taken into the system, and because of this is how I'm gonna. I just have to answer the question through the system, through all this craziness. I thought she was targeted. I knew that she was targeted, and I knew it was not just mental illness because she kept referring to this communication system, and the energy field around her body that was taken over was hooked up to a communication system. And this is one of the most important parts of the book, so I'm really glad you asked that, because this communication system was the same communication system that was linked up to Michael Jackson and Britney Spears and Tupac Shakur and all
Madonna.
These people that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That I noticed were known to be under MK Ultra, and I first she kept saying, "Mom, it's communication. You understand? Everybody's on it. There's other things that are going on. Everybody's on this communication system." And then she would bring up the Michael Jackson. She'd bring up Tupac. She'd bring all these people that were under MK Ultra, so. This is and then I'd heard her chime into the system. And so this was not mental illness anymore for me. This was like a full-on linked up system that she was on. And then I literally watched her where her body, where they had her, not just once, but several times. She was screaming, "Get off me, get off me!" And then they had her, thrown up in almost in a sexual position that they were holding her body down. And it was. I can't tell you what it did to me as a parent. It was the most helpless thing I had ever seen. And I was in the entertainment business at that time, and we were filming a scene over at my house, and one of the crew members saw that, and I wrote about this in the book. And she was literally thrown up, and her pelvis was thrusted up, and she was screaming, "Get off me!" And I had to sit there and watch it, and I couldn't do anything because I was like, "What are you who's on you?" It was the most insane thing. I did get her, I did of course go over and hold her, and and as I always do, and work with the energy around her body, but and remove her from that. But I can't tell you what it's like to see this body and mind and soul taking over. It is so hard to see and watch, and you don't understand it when you think she's just answering a dream, but no, when you see this is full on, this is somebody that is full on taking over, then you understand. Then you learn about the communication system, you learn about who's linked up to the system, etc. And then you understand that this isn't mental illness. This is something that is much more prevalent. So, and then you see it, and then through the communication system, through witnessing her body and through witnessing everything that I went through, and the day in the day out activity of this, I realized this is not that at all. This is not
in the old days, they
judgmental.
call this they used to call this like a demon possession. It sounds very similar to what the church describes when they try to do an exorcism of something affecting. And it sounds like the archons you describe are similar to that. That's what they're dealing with.
Although in your book you said that it's not the same.
Yeah, there's a difference between because of the communication system. There seems to be a difference between a demon, an actual demon, although she did lower her body to archonic energy. I don't believe it's a jinn. It's similar jinn energy and similar demon energy, but because of the communication system, it was more electronic. It seemed more this electronic force that had been
electronic harassment,
with her, coupled with the fact that she had often told me, and she still to this day tells me, she cannot speak to me. She's going to get in trouble. She's under control, etc. So she keeps this like it is. She calls the controller daddy, and it's just that's her father. That's the system.
So what was she?
That is communication system.
So what was she referring to when she said the law, or shall we say who was the law? Taylor was referring to.
Think that's the same. That is the exact same thing. Yes, exactly. That is exactly.
Are you saying that the dark cabal operates by targeting our teenagers, like your daughter, and they become victims of mind control through electronic harassment?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
So
they do.
And your daughter, even though she was not as famous as Britney Spears, but she was still targeted, for example.
Right. I think she was up and coming. She had red hair. There's some people that are targeted for certain reasons all over. And then definitely if you are in a mental institution, you are not safe.
Yeah.
You're just not.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I've been studying that. I've been doing a lot of research on, all these entertainment people, such as Madonna, who just admitted that she's part of the Monarch programming and has been for a long time. Yeah.
I did not know that. I didn't know she admitted it.
She actually, if you look it up, you'll see that she actually came out and told it all. And I was wondering about her. And of course, so many other people, such as Britney Spears and Michael Jackson. So it doesn't surprise me. But what surprises me is that people are still very blind to this. So,
they're very blind to it because people do a really good job. I mean, look at the mind control and the trance that we're all under. It's just insane. I mean, we're just watching our televisions. We're not paying attention to each other. Everything's programmed. We're not listening to our hearts. It's really, we're in a matrix. We're in a matrix that can be controlled. And it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what information was the light beings giving about the truth of the sacrifices of children in the system?
Wow. Okay. So this was just something that was just so hard to accept because when my daughter was in the home, she was pregnant, and they had her baby in the system without identification, a white-skinned baby boy born during the occult season, and our planet. This is just, I'm throwing a lot out here because I just don't know how else to say it. When our planet is taken over by darker forces, these occult forces, they literally run themselves on rituals and themes, and there are certain rituals and themes and babies that all line in together through the system, and they use the system and they use our children for certain rituals. And I had known this because when they had my daughter's son, I was literally getting woke up in the middle of the night by these beings. And they were telling me that these rituals were going on the planet. And they were giving me not who was doing it, but who to get this information from, where, when, and how, these rituals were being done. And so I was continually being guided as to what was happening, and everything lined up to my grandson. Everything down to a T, where I couldn't see him. I have identification. It was a nightmare. And I documented the entire thing. And in the middle of it all, I was looking up these things that the light beings were saying, and everything was correlating with what I was finding from whistleblowers, such as
I don't know what that was.
Oh, that's okay. I made noise earlier. I feel better. But I was just adjourned earlier. But anyways, everything that the light beings were telling me was just linking up with the whistleblowers, and it was also linking up to what I was seeing from the light beings, the whistleblowers, and then it was actually happening. And I was becoming a crazy person. I was becoming an angry, crazy person because I was literally seeing this happening. And so I would go to the court, and I would go to the judges, and I would write these letters, and I would literally tell them, you have to understand, I wrote every single judge in the Los Angeles court system in children's services about the occult. And, they don't like this stuff when I do this. So I'm more kicked out of the courtroom. Sure. Right. So I was literally not allowed in the courtroom, but I was going to do whatever I could do to save my grandson's life, because I was getting told this by the light beings, and they were tapping me on my nose and waking me up at night. I am not going to ignore this. Right. And I don't care who calls that crazy. And then they were telling me, okay, so go, you have to, and I just want to say this too, because I was so devastated over my daughter's illness, that so much light was given to me, meaning that we live in a world of duality. So I went so low that so much my Akashic memory burned on the other end. And that's why I think I was seeing dimensional, and I was seeing other things when I was seeing this stuff. So I was writing the judges these letters, and I was telling them the facts. They said, okay, so when you line up all these buildings in Washington, and they equal a pentagram, and the pentagram is facing down, and in the middle of this pentagram, there's the Freemason building that holds our, where's the Scottish Freemason building? I believe that's where Morals and Dogma Code originated from, and that's where they originally started everything in the court system. This is just general stuff, but it all ties down. This is a Draco system. It all ties down to the Majestic 12, and when they had met with our government after the Roswell crash, or the theory of then they merged with us, and every single thing thereof has been under that alien race, and every organization is under that. And then you put that all together, and then they take your child, and then they, you merge the timelines of when they do sacrificial rituals, when the Dark Lord does have control of the planet, or they do these sacrifices, whatever, and when everything adds up, and you see this happening on your dream time, and you see this happening because you're literally feeling it and getting tipped off, you're going to say, when you go to tell people this, they literally think you're crazy. But then when I was listening to Kevin and Annette, and I was glued to this man, because he was saying stuff that were picking up some of the pieces. And then Michael's historian, he was literally a master at the occult and what they were doing. And he was literally, everything he was saying was making sense. So it was just, I was putting the pieces together, and I just was no holds barred. I was letting them know day in and day out. I wrote every judge, everything. I documented everything, I put it in.
So Department of Social Services or Child Protective Services took your grandson away?
They did, yes, they did. It was a couple. It was several years of fighting till we got him back, even from day one, and
so
even
you
getting
do have
to
it back.
get him a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that?
So you do have him back at this time?
We did have him back, and I tell you what, I swear to God, I think I saved his life from that. Yeah. I was going to another psychic that works with the archons. He's well known, and he does the extraterrestrial work. He's one of the best in the world up at the James Gilliland Ranch, and we were doing sessions on this, and we were very clear that I had saved my grandson's life. And I believed that I had, and it's not that I so much needed him to validate that, but I did because I was starting to feel crazy because nobody understood that these archons were real, that these freaking archons have these judges in the system. I'm telling you, they have them through the computer systems. If they want a baby, if they want a child, they experiment on them. They will use the archon network through the amoeba forms in the computer.
I see. Well, you just answered my question. Okay. So the archons attack the system, which is family law, basically. And because we all know that family law is very corrupted, not just in California, but all over the United States. And they're being attacked by the archons. And why?
Oh, yeah. They are definitely being the archon network. There is an invasion on this planet through the Archon network, and the government and the aliens that are working with the government use the Archon.
Okay, to separate the
Archons is it's kind of like, this is the best way to describe it. It's kind of like World War III, but not like it's a World War III in the ethereal. It's attacking you in the sneakiest way possible.
Yeah, in the spiritual, in the ethereal world rather than physical.
Right, where you can't see it, but it makes you snap up. Anybody now that's going to stay in the old paradigm is going to fall into the wayside because they're going to die of an illness or some electromagnetic energy around their body or being brainwashed or mind controlled because it's so strong. You have to force yourself out of the matrix, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know.
That's strong. We have to rely on our God self now, be in nature, be like use your intuition for making decisions, get rid of anger and don't let fear control your body and your life.
Right.
All those.
Okay, we'll be right back after the break to continue on archons, mind control, and a mom. Thank you and welcome back for joining us for the second hour of Matrix of Perception on Revolution Radio. I'm Monique Lesson, your host, private investigator. Please stay with us and thank you for your patience regardless of all the technology problems tonight. The message of what we're sharing with you here and our light worker named SKYE is sharing with you here is very important. So thank you for your patience. Revolution Radio, as always, is 100% listener supported radio. So please go to our website, www.freedomslips.com and click donate. You can always go to my website, iinvestigate.com. You can also email me from there and share your information, your questions. I'm always listening and taking notes. My new blog is Matrix of Perception blog, WordPress.com. That is, again, Matrix of Perception blog.wordpress.com. Our dedicated dial to listen numbers are available 24/7 for Studio A, 712-432-6958. You can listen to us that way, or you can go to freedomslips.com and click play on Studio A. Again, we're talking to a light worker named SKYE. Her book is Archons, Mind Control, and a Mom. And you can buy her book at any bookstore. And, of course, you can always order it on Amazon.com. Thank you very much, SKYE, for being with us. Welcome back to the second hour of our show.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here. That was such a great first hour. Thank you. You and I were able to work with some amazing topics so far. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. We're talking about how the system is actually taking the children and sacrificing, really, it's a sacrifice of the children in DCSF, I would say, Department of Social, is it Social Services or Children's Services that take the children away?
Department of Family and Children's, Department of Children and Family Services.
Yes. And we know how that is. I've worked many cases such as that, where I have to actually go and either work on the kids' cases against the system, trying to recover them, locate them, and so forth. We all know it happens all the time. And believe me,
it does happen. There's even a website, I think, called Forced Adoptions or something like this. I mean, it's gotten so out of hand. This is a Draco system. I'm just scared. I get right to the point. It's a Draco system. It is run by Dracos, and through that system, that the Department of Children's Services, that's how they have access to our children. And Simon Parks, I really like him. He's really strong. He comes from London, and he talks about his mantis parent and his alien parent, and he's part of the council over there. I know most people do know of him, but So
I just wanted to go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
All right. So I was just wondering, how do we work? And I know you were talking about adoption agencies. That's a huge deal, because I know for a fact that adoption agencies work very closely with Department of Social Services or Children's Services together. Yeah. They are in cahoots to where the children disappear, the children get sacrificed, the children get sold. So please wake up, everyone.
Yeah. Yes. And that's exactly my point. That's why I wrote this book. That's what I was saying about Simon Parks, is that he came here, was telling us this. He was an insider on this. He worked with us. He says they still do this. And they do this. I saw this. I lived this. And I was so scared to come out and talk about it. And then I thought, I don't care if anybody thinks I'm crazy. They still do. It doesn't matter. I have a mission. I was shown something. There are other people that have been brought forth, and they talk about it. And, it's just something that you see. You live your life the best that you can, and you see this stuff, and we have to talk about this. We have to get in touch with this. And this is not really anything that is new, because it is biblical prophecy. If you were to go back into history, go back into Nag Hammadi and the Gnostic religion, before they burnt the books in the Library of Alexandria, this stuff is real. But even in the biblical text, they talk about this stuff. So this is very real, that they have instrument, they've been, I could go on and on.
Right. Well, let's talk about the egoic mind. What is the death of the egoic mind, and are we all going to experience it?
That was one of the most beautiful things. Okay, so it's kind of interesting going back from the system and how they're taking our children. And then on the other end of it, the one beautiful thing the light beings were telling me during this whole thing, so I was getting woke up at night. I was seeing everything that was going on in the system. I was getting educated on the dark, but I was also getting educated on the light. And when I had that experience of being taken, seeing the golden light and realizing that everything was just one and beautiful, I realized that every person on this planet, we were under a matrix. And that every person, the only reason for this matrix was each person, every single one of us was going to experience the death of your egoic mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant that your own illusion was going to be broke. Your own illusion that you created, your own matrix, your own cord to the matrix was going to be broke by your own method of trials and tribulations. So that the death of the egoic mind was agreement that we have before we fall, we forget, and we came here. And then we have an agreement to let that egoic mind die. And that egoic mind could be your lower self, the devil, your devil, how they talk about the devil in Christian religions, the egoic mind, or your illusionary mind, the mind that thinks that you and I are separate. And we're not. We're really not. We're just one thing under God.
Correct. Yeah, right. It's beautiful the way you say it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the death of the egoic, the mind of the separation, and each person was going to experience that, and they're going to be here, and they will experience this no matter what, no matter how many times they have to come back, no matter how many mistakes, trials, and tribulations. Every person will experience this. According to how I've been taught, you will go back home. You will find the death once that death of the egoic mind takes place. So you cannot believe that you are separate from your other. If you harm somebody, I don't care how little or small, you will experience this yourself. Everything matters. Everything you do counts. Mm-hmm. It all matters. We are all one, divinely connected. There's no mistakes. Right. And once you're, it just depends on how low you are on your vibration or how high you are. But the egoic mind, the mind of separation, the mind of, that makes you crazy, the mind of irritability, that mind, the mind that thinks it doesn't deserve God things, the lesser mind, the mind that thinks it's supposed to stay sick, the mind that thinks it's supposed to stay alone, that mind, the mind that is not of God, that mind, that death will occur to each person. And that literally, you go through major transformations because you really were not separate from our Christ source. Mm-hmm. So we have to have that illusionary place smashed, and we have the gift of Gaia and the planet to do this. So every moment really is a holy moment, but it just, we have to allow ourselves to go through, we literally agree to separate from our Christ source and to be freezing and cold and think that there's death, and there's not. None of that's real. That's a matrix. We are eternal beings under God.
Right. Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you on that. Don, if you wanted to come in now. Don disappeared. He wrote to me. He wants to come in, but now he probably went to eat something. Okay, so I'll move on. On page 70 of your book, you talked about archons as being parasites which infest the etheric brain, the astral brain, and mental brain. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And how are they that they are parasites? And I've heard that before, actually, this term. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be a really simplistic kind of scientific way to say it. Yeah, that is exactly what happens. It's just like an infection that you were to get anywhere on your body. It goes into the mind, and it attaches into form, and it literally interrupts the thought system. It's a distorted phlegm. And it literally, sometimes when there's tumors on the body, that's what that is. It is literally a form. It's form. It's into the mind, and this is what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you know what? I thought a lot about what you wrote in your book about mental illness, and you're saying that mental illness has a lot to do with the archons, and then I actually experienced it. And I talked about it a few weeks ago when I had Fred Burks on my show about mind control, and this woman who appears, actually she's almost 100% blind, and she also talks to this being next to her, and which is kind of the wall. and she talks to herself. And I was few tables away from her, getting ready to listen to a video that I was watching about Nixon and, the assassination of Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis and all of that. And she started talking to this entity about exactly the same thing.
Wow.
A few tables down at Starbucks. So I thought, I have to make sure I share this with you. And speaking of mental illness, so is that the archons that attached to her, or how did she or someone like her would be able to hear and see what I was working on?
They do. And they do it with every sense on their body. They can smell you too. It depends on what sense is ignited or whatever, they can literally smell you from other places, depending on what form they're taking, but they do.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So explain to me what mental illness. Right.
Form.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think they're literally picking up your thought form wave energy, because theirs is a little bit more sensitive. Anyway.
Okay.
So there's their thought form, depending on what wave pattern because see, their root chakra is shut off. Their base, the root that grounds them and makes them into the world, is more either shut off or damaged. So they're more based in their head. And that's more flamed up. So those waves, all the waves from their body, from the root, is not there. It's pressed up, so it's on fire at the top. Mm-hmm. And those waves, you can literally read over into these other, and depend on the person, the mental illness. And let me tell you, it's mental illness, and if they're on medication, most likely they're picking up what you're saying.
Interesting. So because I know, for example, you're from LA, there are a lot of people that talk to themselves in LA and San Diego, as far as I know. I live in Northern California, so I don't have as many people that speak to themselves. But who are they talking to? Are they talking, or the archons are talking to them, or are they really mentally ill, or maybe they're not? Maybe they're just vibrating at a different frequency where the archons reside and they are talking to them.
Yeah, that's what I think that is. I think you're correct about that. I think these are these other archons that they attach to the parasites, or they attach to your body forms. And those forms are, they do attach, and they do pick up, and they are red. And yes, they're...
it's interesting.
They do attach to your body. They're yes, that's exactly right.
Well, okay. So it seems to me like those people mentally ill, maybe they're hearing these voices in their heads. Or when people say we hear voices in our heads, that's not necessarily a negative thing.
Well, they're attaching. The archon. They're also speaking. Like, okay, so let me finish the question a little better. They're speaking to an archon. They're literally speaking to an archon entity. Sometimes there could be an attachment to their speaking to, or they're answering back, or they're answering back to people that are controlling them. Now, it depends on whose case it is. Some of the youth and some of our celebrities that are under MK Ultra, they're literally answering back the system, the communication system. Mm-hmm. But a schizophrenic or a mentally ill person, they could be answering back. Most likely, they're answering back an archon, or they're answering back other forms from other dimensions. But they are interacting with somebody. But a lot of schizophrenics, this is what the difference is. Their timelines are not cut off. Like they're living all lifetimes at once. They could be yelling and screaming at somebody they're shooting in a battlefield in a past life. So their minds are kind of all over the place. They literally hop timelines. They don't have a cord or this line of demarcation thing, or this line that we have when we come in. We have a cut-off memory. Theirs is all all of that is open. In fact, that's why I think they're more targeted, because their brain waves are just higher. And that's also why a lot of the mentally ill people don't like television, because of the brain waves that are coming through there. And the signals that come through the television is just torture for the mentally ill, because the signals that are coming out of your television, whether it's on or off, is one of the worst things for the body. But it's torturous if you're mentally ill, or if you're somebody that has just sensitivity to electromagnetic energy. But if you're mentally ill, it's really hard. If you're light vision,
Right.
it's really hard.
Okay, so how would
Either
you
end of the
differentiate? So how would you differentiate what you're hearing in your head if you hear voices, for example? And why is it that only a portion of population can hear these voices?
Everybody's sensitivity is different. I think we come in with a different agreement into our life form and what we're supposed to experience. And
for example, I hear voices in my head, and I think that, and I mean, those voices that I hear is from my guides. It's very powerful.
Yes,
it's very positive.
Guides.
Right.
Yeah, and then there's the guides, because, okay, so that is a great question. Let's talk about that, because I want people to know that this is a great question, because there's times that you're getting mind control, and there's times that are just really you, or your guide, or your higher self, your angel. So the mind control comes, it's much more synthetic. It originates more from your thought, then it can be twisted, and it can be turned around and then sent back to you. There's different forms when you start having, when it's real, it's much more electronically heart-based. It's into the heart. It's not mind controlled. It's heart. It comes very fast. It's very genuine. And, like with my case, of course I get the taps on the nose, but your intuition. It feels good. The mind is very relaxed. Anything that's heavy on the mind that's a different thing. That's a different vibration.
Right. I agree with you.
Yes.
Okay. So let me go ahead and again ask Don Morsha to come in and ask a few questions that he's been just waiting to ask you.
Hey there, Scott. I was dropped for a little bit there. So,
yeah.
Okay. So a few questions. You referred to light beings and being coached as a child and such. I think anybody listening might, a lot of people might have kind of these weird memories of different kind of contacts, either negative ones or positive ones that just echo in your mind. But I'm wondering, since you have such a great memory and recall now that's open, what is the purpose and objective of these light beings? There's a few questions here. What is the role of that the children and the people they're contacting play, that people they're trying to enlighten? And do you have a vision yourself from them of what will be created in the future by the combined work of all these beings and humans working together? And what does that future look like? Will there be a paradigm shift in 10 or 20 years? So just like to kind of hear about the whole picture between light and dark working together and where we're going with all this.
Yeah, wow, what a great question too. That's an exciting one, because that's how it all started for me. That's the whole reason I came here, is because this timeline is going to experience something very profound. I know this because I was contacted. We're all set up. We're all on assignment. We all have our radar. We all have assignment, or you're going to get ignited to what your assignment is. And we're all in place for these missions. And the people that are getting contacted, they're getting downloaded either through their dream time. They're having memories. They're finding a profound purpose. They're coming back with information that they didn't normally have. And for some reason, they'll come back and they suddenly understand something, or they have an invention, or they have something they just found an answer to, or something profound, or things are just, there's a major movement going on, because these contactees are being literally taken out of their bodies at night. We're going up on the ships. we are being programming, we are being tweaked, programmed, downloaded, and that could be anything from getting your mind to where you know the formula for how to cure a disease, or you know how to put in a formula because you're a scientist, or you're working on a spaceship and you're working on some kind of gravity thing, and you suddenly come back with the answer. That could be something as, something you've got the answer to your next book that you're going to write, but they're working with us in the most profound ways. And they're even putting contactees into governmental places, but the whole government system, the whole thing is going to change. I talk about in my book some of the stuff that is going to be going on, but we as contactees know that they are going to be changing the entire system. Now, this is the thing that I have with why I have a bad time with the old paradigm, because that entire system's changing. The government system, the grid lines, the way that it's set up, the building, not necessarily buildings, but, well, yeah, they are. All of it is going to be changing. We are not going to be using the Draco system anymore. There's no point in going in and trying to fix something that's broke or trying to change. I'm sorry, because the light beams just tapped me. I just get so charged up about this. There's no point going to the same thing over and over expecting the same result. That whole thing is changing. So that they talk about the new paradigm and how we're all getting contacted at night. We're being brought up on ships. We're getting downloaded about medical forms, about where to be when the things transfer, about when the lights go out. They teach us about Planet X. Everything we need to know, we are being downloaded about right now. And the only most important thing you can do, yeah?
Could this be part of
Is it what?
When people have out-of-body experiences? I hear a lot of people going and kind of getting a consultation with higher guides or other spirits. You're saying downloaded. Yeah. How do people know? How do people awaken if they're getting information? How do we tap into this and awaken it?
So when you go up on the ship, you make an agreement usually, and you get like little subconscious clues. And the best way to know, it's so important to meditate. Really, you clear your mind, clear the body's energy around the body, simplify your mind, and go about your day, and loosen your mind, but go about your day's activity, but loosen your mind, and then look at your scenery around you, and you start to see things, different dimensions appear. You start to hear words or get triggers that you're seeing on ships somehow, or the green in the plant looks a little greener because you understood you're working with it somehow. You're getting downloaded from the ship. Your dimensions are starting to open up because you're living different when you come here. It's almost like you're triggered, but in a good way.
Right, of course. And and when you were talking about the dream world, I actually, oh boy, dreaming is a bridge between you and God. It's how you receive information. God is the source, the life force, whatever you want to call it. And definitely, I think that's one of the best ways, beside meditation, is to receive information from your higher power and ascended masters, or whatever you want to call it. Whatever is great out there. And they do come in with messages.
Yes, the ascended masters are coming. Right now.
And sometimes
that's the truth.
And sometimes the line between did I just dream this? It felt so real. So more and more people are having lucid dreams that are very real as they wake up. Would you agree?
It is the strangest thing. It really is. It is just that these lucid dreams it's just becoming like you're not. It's almost like it's one big reality.
Yes.
Yeah. That's how we're all getting ignited and connected. It's actually really beautiful. And the ascended masters, that's these things, these terms are not just like la-di-da. And the government they put it, they use words like conspiracy theory or La La Land, or, you know, they make you think oh God, it's just you know, all government, but a lot of it is true too. There are, you know, the religions talk about ascended masters and these prophets for a reason. Prophets are extraterrestrials. It's for a reason. It's all the same connection. We're not alone. We have other dimensions that beings are working on. They love us. They never left us, you know, and they're working with us to help raise humanity. Right. So if you think that we're left alone and we don't have access to this, or just don't to think that you don't have access to your own guardian angel is erroneous. Right. You know, that you have access to your own light being. It's just a matter of how much, and everybody does.
Right. You know, walk-ins is a very interesting subject. Somebody's making a lot of noise. I'd like to ask everyone to mute when you're not talking. Walk-ins can be negative and positive. I guess when people are either at their deathbed, or maybe they're not feeling good, maybe they're very depressed, at some point walk-ins walk into our lives. Now, what makes us believe that one walk-in is positive, and in your case was positive, and in your daughter's case was negative? And how does that, you become like the force of the good, and one becomes the force of negative or dark?
Yeah. Okay. So I just love these questions because this is great. The walk-ins. So, you know, when I very beginning in the first hour, when we were talking about how I had this experience of, I literally had walked, my soul was as if it was taken aside and I could not reach it. And I went to this almost death form. I laid there in anxiety, and I came back with ignited form, like as if I literally, my higher self walked into my body and ignited everything that I knew. And I became a lighter person, and like a partial walk-in. So this would be on a lighter side and a partial walk-in. Now, if we were to go into the same form, such as my daughter, and or if you were to say that her was a walk-in, or just walk-ins in general, maybe not her for an example, or a walk-in, I relate more of my higher self when my higher self walked in, but in the dark form, there are literally, you make an agreement. First of all, there's never a walk-in that does not walk in unless your soul agreed. And your soul will literally agree to walk out of that body form. And then the walk-in can be either you in a future timeline or a past timeline, or a darker form of you that walks in. Or it can be a complete agreement with another walk-in that it's usually a form of it's usually you, because you're in control of your dimensions more than you think. You know, we think we're victims, but we're not. But you can make an agreement with another source that will walk in. But it's not a conscious, it's an agreement on a very subconscious level. But if you were just to look at the person right now, you would just think an entity walking into their body and it's taking over.
And that's different than position.
It's very similar. Yeah, but it's more, the difference is the walk-in is more of your family line, your own it's very similar, but it's usually a walk-in. You're connected somehow to that soul.
Right. Okay.
You're connected somehow through the soul chain. You can have a walk-in. You can have a walk-in into your body, a literally walk-in outside person. But that's different than a demon, because the demon is like an attachment. This is a soul that walks in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I understand that. So, for example, Drunvala Melchizedek and Thoth, from the book The Ancient Secrets of the Flower of Life, Thoth was the walk-in for Drunvala Melchizedek.
Right. I've heard that term before. Exactly.
Yeah. It is very interesting. it's fascinating, and I always kind of was wondering if that's the same as possession, but I do believe that it's not the same. Because possession, you just takes over, while this is an agreement with your soul. So
exactly.
Right. So we have about 20 minutes, more or less. Let's talk about the objective, to understand how the process of enlightenment works and how the light brings, or I don't know what this noise is. Everybody?
I don't know. There's some noise coming from somewhere. I do not know.
Yeah. Interesting. You know what? We are talking about a very interesting subject. So, and there's a lot of.
Yeah, I think it's coming from over here. Hold on. Okay, I think I got it.
Okay. I hope you didn't kill any mouse or little rat or anything.
I hope not.
Okay, so let's talk about the objective, to understand how the process of enlightenment works and how the light beings or advanced angelic beings are teaching each of us to connect to our own divine light and to prepare us for the changes. So I know that you're on that path, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, that they're preparing us individually, because that is true. So if you were to start to take that into a literal sense, then you would be actually, this is something that you are going to be experiencing, because once you have, like we talked about, the death of the egoic mind, so once we experience this, then each person will be ascending according to that level. And then you're going to be experiencing this on your own divine, in your own divine way. And these things are, this enlightenment form are literally happening to people, but it's happening to plants and things. And remember, we talked about in the beginning, everything is energy, even our table, our forms, our everything. Mm-hmm. So even those forms, because literally everything we're control of, even the objects in our home, we are literally connected to this. So that changes existence. So that, and coupled with your DNA changing with the planetary DNA, this whole system is changing. So,
well, be very. I would say, okay, let's talk about the changes on the planet and the porthole assignments, the travel through dimensions, and the concept of time. What would you say about that?
The concept of time is one of my favorite topics, because there isn't any time. That's the one thing that the light beings was first telling me, is that we don't go through time frames. We go through the objects moving, and that there is no time. And that is the whole theme here in this matrix, the Luciferian theme, the government, where they hijack the time, and time in itself is ending, and the Time Lord is ending. So the theme of just the thought that we are in this time concept, that will be taken away from us. That is like more of a grid thing that they've taken over, and they've hijacked our perceptions. And so that the time theory is in essence a trick. There is no time. There's objects moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about the traveling through dimensions? How can we travel?
Yes, and traveling through dimensions according to your vibrational theory, or your vibrational theme around you. So the theme, the vibration around you is going to travel you through these dimensions quicker than anything, because you're going to literally transport through dimensions through your vibration. Yeah. Because that was the one thing, as a light being, was the one thing that I loved. They were taking this ethereal, and they had us trained to literally dimensional hop. You know how you see ships that are dimensional? You see them. What's the word? Pulsating. They
sure.
Oh God, I can't think of the word. When you see the extraterrestrial ships and they're pulsating, they teach us how to do this. They teach us how to pulsate through dimensions, through time, because there is no time. But you're not pulsating. You're not running through anything. You're changing a vibrational field. So you literally have to change a vibrational field, and then you can hop through these dimensions just like you see the extraterrestrials do. So, and when you're in the ethereal and you're taking on your body, you're trained to do this. And you're trained at such a high rate that you can take other people. And so you transport people. It's a very high-tech, interesting form, but when you understand time and you understand quantum physics and you understand dimensional travel and you understand vibrations, you can literally add that up.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that can you travel through dimensions at will yourself?
At times I do, yeah. I do. It has to be at a very high state. I still am in a human body, and I can do it, but it's not like it's on demand.
Right.
I wish, yeah. It's like either because I'm being contacted by them or by the intelligence that wants to download me, or I went into a high state of vibration and I am connecting to them. And that's why I'm always really concerned about my vibration and where I'm at, because I don't want my vibration to get low. Because when I get low, I just get into earthly things. So my high vibration is sustained, and low can be anything, like just walking through town, your vibration can get low from everybody. Mm-hmm. So I just try to keep it super high and keep my connection super high and my ethereal God high, so that I'm always in tune with that and I'm not losing that. But but if I need it, that's the agreement. If I need it, they will be there. And I chime in a lot. Like sometimes if I lose things or if I want to connect with something, I'll try to check in. But it's not really always like that. It's not like a psychic thing. It's more of planetary information and what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be transporting it, my agreement that I have with them. But I know that I'm they're with me. I know that I'm monitored by the lighter sources, and that I'm chimed in, because I know that's my agreement here from until the ascension happens.
Until the ascension happens.
Until the ascension happens, yes. I will see this timeline ascend.
So when is the ascension happening?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So right now, this is the thing. So I said we talked about that in the beginning. I talked about that we're on a different timeline. So each timeline is controlled by different things. This timeline happens to be the timeline of the collective, and this timeline is literally controlled by our collective mind. That is why we are. This is the evolutionary planet timeline of the collective. That is why we are. Those people that you hear, they talk about the 100th monkey. Yeah. They are. Yeah. This is imperative. And we are light workers work their asses off to get us back on track here on this timeline. We teach people, don't ever go to those voting booths. They make you think it's a one right wing, left wing. It's all the same Draco system. It's a scam, just like the television. And most of the stuff that I talk about in my book talks about all the scams that happen in the Matrix. So
so to keep us busy from the actual thing that is going on, to distract us.
Yes.
So would you say that the archons are always dark forces, or the positive archons as well?
No, the archons are not positive.
Never.
They're the opposite of the angels.
Okay, so there are forces of angels versus archons that are going on. And maybe those are the, I'm just thinking that, those the dark forces. It's interesting because I've always seen these entities in a dark. They're not wearing dark clothes. I mean, there are entities in my room. They're trying to get me out of bed and pull me out of bed, and then all of a sudden, this is just a couple months ago, and then all of a sudden, this woman showed up at the edge of my bed, and that looked like a teacher, and all of a sudden. These dark forces, there was 3 of them that were trying to pull me out of bed, they disappeared as soon as this other angelic, I would say, or she looked like a teacher, like I said. She was my protector. I could tell. But here's the interesting thing. Just last week, I was being held from behind by something. By something, I cannot tell you what it was. And woke me up, and I was very scared because I knew that there was no one was behind me. And it was holding me very tight. Oh, God. It's very, very scary. So anyways, Dawn, you have a question. Come on in. We have
I'm just really happy that your light angel was there for you for that, to protect you. And we'll take that through.
Yes.
Yeah, and you came in at the right time. She's actually you're obviously protected. You're obviously watched because you're into this business. So, and we're amethyst.
Yeah, I've been told by Trisha McKinnon when I was regressed back in 99 that I have an army of angels around me because of what I do.
Oh, yeah. Right. Of course you do.
But I can honestly tell you, these three beings that were in the shadows, dark shadows, that were trying to pull me out of bed, and I was holding on to something so they won't. And then all of a sudden, this woman showed up, and boom, they disappeared. And sometimes I say, in the name of Jesus Christ, go back to where you came from, and that worked. And I don't even believe in Jesus Christ as a prophet or anything, but as a good guy. I just thought I should try that and see if it works.
Sure,
and
yeah.
And it worked.
I think that's a universal code,
Yeah.
So
it's my safe place. So Dawn, you wanted to ask a question?
So yeah, in the scheme of things, in a divine universe that's created out of, from, and with nothing but pure, complete energy, and we're talking about rotating energy in toruses from the atom to the universe to the planet to the body, right? To the cell. So how can things like multiple universes with really dark and difficult influences exist? Is this even part of the agreement to come down here and deal with these challenges? Are archons part of the spiritual agreement? How can we put that in perspective in a divine universe where if we in touch with our divine power, it's very hard for these things to influence us? Why are they here?
Very good question.
Well, we made that agreement to go outside of our mind. This part of the universe is the part that we, from the mind of God, separated from the way that we're taught, and we agreed to use this negative force energy to separate from us. But it literally got out of control and took on its own form and went into the form of, the free will zone. And then that got taken over. So the way back is through the higher, through reaching your higher soul, but through back to your God mind. But we agreed that when the Big Bang happened, they kind of talk about in the Bible, like the certain people agreed, like a third of the people agreed to come over to this section of the universe. We agreed to lose our minds. We agreed to the parasites, and then we came into form. And that's kind of a part of the section that it's almost why they call everything holy. It's almost like the strange correction, almost like the washing machine. I guess it's an interesting way to put it.
Is this kind of, as in essence, a way to come to take sort of a journey in a very strange, difficult challenge, to come down to this chaos of separation and mind and to try to make it through this matrix? And then each time you come through the matrix, multiple lives, you learn a little more, you get a little better. In other words, it sounds like I've always been told your spirit can never be harmed. It's the teachings of all the great masters, from Jesus to Buddha and all that, is that we're trying to find our way home again. But they always say that the greatest part of the thing is the journey, not the end. So it seems that as difficult, as evil as some of these things seem, It seems migrating, navigating to that other side is the whole point of being here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have agreed to come down here in this crazy chaos.
That's beautiful. Yeah, the point is the journey. That is the truth. That is the truth. And I also love what you said about there is a place within each of us, the soul place, that is untouched and unharmed. And it remains peaceful and unharmed from any of this. So that's the place to remember, and that's the place to get in touch to when we're in meditation. Because that's the place you go back home to, this place that reminds us where we came from, the place before, the memories, the peace mind, the place that's been unharmed. And it's beautiful. I started to do these. I did them now because I was going to talk about this too. I have my Enlightened Beings YouTube station, and I've been putting together these meditations that I'm putting them together. I'm fixing them up right now. That literally gets our bodies in touch with the light beings of your own self and gets us to that place in yourself that is unharmed, that reboots your system. And that's the place that we have to make sure that the meditations, the place that we have to get to reboot our system while we're here, to remember that it's just a matrix and it's just it's a journey that we're on. And we cannot get lost into this. We have to reboot from source. We have to have our soul food. So that's the meditation, and that's just a beautiful meditation I was doing, and I'm going to put it on my Enlightened Beings YouTube channel very shortly. I'm going to be doing a series of meditations and yoga live streaming through Ron James Eyeball TV channel, and I'm going to be doing this live. But you can just keep watching my YouTube station. I already have a few thousand people on there that watch me, but I'm going to do the meditation thing that's going to get us in touch with us. And then I'm going to be doing some daily live streaming stuff. So we can do this on a daily life and make this part of our daily lives, to get up and start our life and our day like this, and to really work with a new paradigm of the energy from within that is changing within. We have to get back to that sacred space. And that space that is the vibrational pull that we need to unite on. And we need to be communicating this anyway right now, because over the next several years, with all the changes that are going to be happening, we're going to have to be going to our inner world to find these answers. There could be a time we don't have internet, there could be a time anything that could happen. And we're going to have to turn on our inner light and our inner space and our inner telepathy to find out what's going on. So the time now is to invest in the soul.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that you shared that. By the way, go ahead and give your YouTube channel again, the information. And you don't have do you have a website at this time?
Well, yeah, I'm just using my YouTube Enlightened Beings station, because the reason I use that is because all this time that the light beings over the last several years had contacted me, I had gotten on there and I just through time given all the messages that they told me about. And I pretty much walked people through an array of stuff, like I was saying what was going on in 2012 and then what was going on with coming ice on, because the light beings were literally walking me through this stuff. And they walked me through stuff like that happens with Planet X, or anytime there's like an alarm thing that's going on the planet, it isn't just me. Like, I don't take those kind of credit. People, anybody who's tuning into themselves or as a light worker right now or a contactee, we have literally a mission. We are on a mission, and we have assignments, and we're getting ignited, and we're getting told what to, how to proceed.
So let me ask you, how do you live in the world of three-dimensional world with every day with regular people? Because you probably stand out, as many of us do. You can't really communicate about stuff like this. And I know it's not easy to go from where you are, which is up here, and then come and talk to regular people at Starbucks. So how do you deal with that?
That is such a great Thank you for asking that, because that is my biggest challenge, just being part of the third dimensional world and even understanding almost like I can't say not human because I'm literally in a human body, but I don't resonate with the third paradigm. The older paradigm anymore. I don't relate to it. I get angry about it. I become kind of bitchy and irritable around electronics, and I'm like, "What's going on?" As you might know, but at the end of, I don't like a lot of electricity and just certain things that are very hard on me, and it doesn't make it easy sometimes for me to be in public, and it's harder, it's just harder. I have to get, but I've learned to use protection, and I've learned to get around highly evolved people that don't want to bring themselves into lower states or lower forms of energy where I don't have to be subject to lower things that are very irritating to me. Like, I mean, not that I'm holier than anything, it's just that my vibrational field cannot handle low forms of conversations. They can't handle low forms of, anything, forms of food, heavy density around me. It's very hard on me. I don't do well with it. I don't do well with anything in the paradigm system. Anything that wants to do with banks or checking me out or systems or especially the medical system, I shy away from it because I can tell you that a corruption in that makes me sick. The alien corruption in the medical system makes me sick.
Yeah,
so
and the medical and of course, and the court system. Go ahead.
Yes, the court, and so I have an aversion to it all. And I feel like I'm constantly being pressed to be in it. Use your credit card, go do this, go, just even going to find a place to live, they want to invade your privacy, and then they've got chips on your credit cards. And this is how, your credit card is how they monitor you. And when the time comes, you're being monitored on the chip on the credit card. And how you're going to be chipped in your body is through Obamacare. They're doing it when you sign over to Obamacare, you sign over the right to have an alien chip in your body. And you know who made that clear is, what's his name, Jim Lear. He has a wonderful, and I'm not into Catholic or Christianity, but he talks into this in-depth thing about this.
Oh, my God. I have to have you back again, maybe on a round table on mind control again, because it went so fast and I have so many more questions to ask you, Skye. Thank you so much. Okay, so light worker named Skye, buy her books, Archons, Mind Control, and a Mom, A Path to Enlightenment. And we'll have her back for sure. Watch for her. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.